I have been using a PSP for the last month or so for all of my portable gaming, and this has come with me everywhere. Every train ride, every hotel stay, every cafe visit, and it really has been an absolute blast. I'd forgotten how good this console is. And in this video, I'm going to tell you about the games I've been playing, the films I've been watching on UMD, the mods that I've got installed, and some of the crazy accessories that I got for this as well. And more than anything, I wanted to tell you kind of how this holds up as a console in general in 2025. So let's get right into it. Before we start though, I did want to talk about the design of this device because I really think this is the apex of late 2000s tech. This feels like the Nokia brick and a BlackBerry and a Tamagotchi and a CD player and a Walkman all built into one design that feels really, really Sony-like. And it feels well ahead of its time, even though it's uniquely stuck in its own time. And I have to highlight all of the Sony weirdness with this because this used something called UMDs for games and movies, which slid into the back of the console like that. It's got a proprietary Sony memory card called a Memory Stick Duo, which was only used on Sony products back then. It's got Wi-Fi, but the Wi-Fi is on a switch at the top here. You get a headphone jack, and a real blast from the past is this hold button. You'd switch this on and then all of the buttons on the PSP wouldn't work at all. So you could listen to music and throw it in your bag or something like that, and it wouldn't change anything on the console, which was something that was really common on devices back then. And of course, there's a dedicated space on the console to hang a charm from it, which is really showing off its kind of Japanese design heritage there. So the design on this is just something I really love, and I think Sony did such a good job of cramming all of these devices into one device of the time. So the PSP I have is the PSP Slim. This is the 2000 model, and I was initially excited to look into some mods for this sort of thing, but it turns out the earlier models, the PSP 1000s, and the later models, the 3000s, are way more easy to mod than this Slim version, which is a shame. However, some of the mods are truly awesome. Some of the best ones I've seen out there are of course replacing the screen with an IPS one, a shell replacement including buttons or USB-C charging, but of course the big one is getting custom firmware on here so you can emulate your old game backups. I've kept my experience relatively authentic with this one, so I haven't gone for a shell replacement or any of the other mods because I don't think it's even possible that well on the Slim model, but I have put custom firmware on here, and funnily enough, this custom firmware I had actually done back in 2008 when I was a bit younger, and it was quite tricky at the time, but it's really easy to do now. I'm not going to tell you exactly how to do that, but if you go onto Google and type it in, I'm sure you can find your way around it. And the other mod that I've done as well is because the Memory Stick Duos were really expensive at the time, the one I had in here was only 8 gigabytes, but you can now get a little adapter which lets you put a micro SD into here, and I'm now running a PSP with 128 gig of internal storage for about £10, which is awesome. I also have to shout out the modding community on here as well, because some of the examples I found online and I was really tempted to buy are absolutely beautiful. People have gone all out with these with all of the mods that you can possibly imagine, and some people take these so far. It's just so awesome to see the community around it still being here. So my experience of this started relatively badly because I think I'm cursed with looking at these older consoles, because I had the same issue with my Game Boy, which I was using a while back, is that the battery died on it completely. So what I did is I bought a new one from Amazon and I threw that in, and that worked for a little bit, and then it turned out that that wouldn't work unless it was plugged in at the same time. So I just thought this has got to be some sort of problem with the PSP and not so much with the batteries or anything like that. But I took the plunge and ended up buying a new one, so that's the third battery, and this one ended up working absolutely fine. I can get around 3 to 6 hours on a battery charge now, which feels pretty good, and the standby time is really good as well. When you just flick this switch, the PSP goes into a sleep mode, and that seems to last for days on end as well, which has been really, really good and useful. Very quickly before we talk about the games I've been playing, I wanted to say how comfortable this has been to actually play. Sony definitely nailed the feel and the kind of experience of this PSP, and all of the buttons and everything and the weight and how it holds in the hand and the screen size all feel completely spot on, and playing any game with this feels fantastic. The only thing which isn't great, and we'll talk about that a little later, is this thumbstick. But for the D-pad and the buttons and the overall experience, top notch. I cannot complain at all. As for the games I've been playing though, I'm a huge Mega Man fan, as you can probably tell, but one of the games I love on here is Mega Man Maverick Hunter X, which is a remake of the Mega Man X game. And even though I don't really like the art style on here, the gameplay is excellent. It really holds up, and that's really fun to smash through when I've got a little bit of time. I can usually get a level done or a boss defeated or something like that. I've also been loving the Metal Slug anthology, and specifically Metal Slug 3 on there, which has got this wonderful mission where you get turned into a zombie and the only way for you to attack is to puke blood on people, which is ridiculous and gross, but it's just so much fun to play. And the final short burst game has been Street Fighter Alpha Max 3, which has been an excellent way to get back into fighting games because I don't play that many of them. And I've got to say the pixel art on there is absolutely gorgeous, and it just plays really well on the PSP, so I've been enjoying that too. When I've had longer periods of time to play it though, I have been absolutely loving God of War Ghost of Sparta. I haven't actually played this because last time I had Chains of Olympus, so getting this one has been like this totally new experience for me. And I've got to say how much it genuinely holds up. I've sat at home for about an hour or 2 hours or so and just enjoyed playing through this, and I haven't had any issues with things like it looking old or anything like that. And of course it does, but the gameplay just holds up so well, and the graphics look good, and the frame rate does dip a fair amount here and there, but honestly, it's totally playable, so I've really been enjoying that too. I've also got to point out how funny it feels to have the UMD in the back spin up and load while you're playing a game. You can kind of feel it in the background. It's just a strange sensation to feel on a handheld console. I just can't imagine a disc spinning around in there, but it is. There's been some other games that I've thrown in there as well, like Loco Roco 2, and this PSP plays a lot of PS1 games too. So I've also got Crash Bandicoot 3 Warped on here, which plays fantastically. And then there's some other stuff that I want to check out as well, like Castlevania Symphony of the Night, which I never played, but I know I'd love. Obviously the PSP doesn't just do games, it does films too, and I went out of my way to grab some films as well. Okay, I'm about to watch Ghost in the Shell on my PSP on the rest of this train ride home. So I'll check back in once I've finished it to let you know how it was. I'm about 40 minutes in and I'm pretty much going to have to stop watching, and it's not really a problem with the screen, it looks fine and all that sort of thing, although a little low quality. It's actually like the audio mix. Trying to listen to that on a train, it just doesn't have the volume to cut through, so I'll have to watch it somewhere else, or I'll have to get noise cancelling headphones for it on here, because at the moment it's just a little bit unwatchable. By the way, I did end up finishing the film the next day, and actually that's the first time I've seen Ghost in the Shell, and it was fantastic. I can completely see why it's considered a classic. So yeah, overall, playing games and watching films on the PSP has been a really wonderful experience. This video doesn't have a sponsor, by the way, so I'm going to sponsor it myself again. If you like what I'm doing here on the channel, then check out my wallpaper packs. They look fantastic across all of your devices, and they're all listed on my little website, which is kurokustudio.co.uk. We sell fun stuff over there, like bite review stickers, which you can put on the back of your devices, and also other stuff like mugs and things like that. So if you appreciate what I'm doing, then please check it out. It helps out massively. Anyway, back to the video. Okay, so something has just shown up in the post. This is the Sony PSP camera, which is something I never tried before, but for this video I had to get one. So I scoured eBay and I managed to find one. So let's switch it on and see what happens. And hey, there we go, it's working already. You can probably see that straight away, which is cool. What's cool with this as well is the camera actually rotates as well. So I can turn that around so you can see me through here. And I can also turn it back around so you can get more of a selfie mode. I was actually just about to break for lunch and go and get some coffee, but I think what I might do is use this and vlog the experience. So let's switch to the PSP camera. There it is. Let's go grab some lunch. Okay, heading back now. I only had a coffee in the end because I couldn't decide what to have for lunch, but what I wanted to point out is how useful this little thing is you can turn. So I can actually turn it all the way and film out in front. I'll switch it back and film myself, which is surprisingly useful. Anyway, let's head back to the studio and see how all of that looks. Hey, Editor Tom here, and I just went through that section and I actually think it looks kind of nice in its own lo-fi way. You can get away with the video for sure, but it is, as ever, the microphones which let it down. It just makes it kind of unusable in that respect. I did end up taking some photos too, and it's got this real kind of digicam vibe to it, which can deliver some kind of interesting results if that's what you're going for, but I don't think it's something I'd ever particularly use. But this was still a lot of fun to experiment with, and I'm glad I picked up the camera for the PSP. Okay, that's enough gushing about the PSP. I obviously love it, but there are issues with it. And the biggest one for me is this little left thumbstick. It's more of a nub more than anything else, but on some games you have to use it even when the D-pad could absolutely be utilised. And games like God of War, when you play that for around 30 minutes of this tiny little thing, I'm taking a break and like shaking my hand off, and I can just feel where I've been playing it. I know they solved this later with the PS Vita, but for that right now, I wish you could just switch to the D-pad. That would be so much better. Other bad things as well is the screen quality at the time was probably fantastic, but now it just feels so low quality and it really shows. Also, the backlight is crazy dim. Now at home that's probably okay, but when I've been on train rides and things like that, I'm on max brightness and it's only just enough most of the time. And also, while the battery life isn't too bad, the warning before it turns off is like so quick. So there's been times where it's turned itself off and I've been really worried that I've missed kind of save data or anything like that. But usually it puts it straight into sleep mode, so you do have time to go and get a charger or something before it's too late. Also, the speakers on the front are tinny and dreadful and they don't get very loud at all. Even listening to music or podcasts out loud on here doesn't feel very nice, so I'd absolutely recommend using some headphones. So in 2025, I would say that the PSP absolutely holds up, especially if you mod it a little bit. You can get so much out of this console. And look, for me, the idea of taking around a retro games console started off as a way of me getting away from my phone. So when I was ever sitting down somewhere or had some free time to burn, rather than jumping straight to social media, I'd rather jump onto something like this and use my time a little bit more thoughtfully. And a lot of people pointed out that you're just replacing one screen for another. And yes, I totally am, but I feel like this is still a better way to spend the time rather than doom scrolling. But what I wanted to say is, on those previous tests, I have to often remind myself to take it with me. So when I was using the Game Boy, I had to continually remind myself, like, don't forget the Game Boy because I'm testing that at the moment, and that sort of thing. And I haven't had that with this because it has truly turned into an EDC item for me. I feel sad if I forget this, so it's usually one of the first things I throw into my bag or throw into my pocket because I'm genuinely excited to play this whenever I can. And look, things will change with that. The Switch 2 is on the way and I'm obviously going to pick one of those up, and I can't wait for that. But for now, I'm happy to stick with the PSP for a little bit longer until that comes because it's genuinely just been so much fun. So there you have it. There's been my time with the PSP. I'm going to continue using it. Some people in the comments mentioned that I should check out the PS Vita because that solves a lot of problems with the PSP and it can play all of the old PSP games as well. So that's something I am tempted to check out, but I want to keep this retro gaming thing going on the channel. So let me know in the comments below, should I check out a PS Vita or should I check out a Sega Saturn, because I have been looking at those non-stop recently. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, pop a like, that'd be fantastic. Let me know if you're playing any retro game consoles as well in the comments below. I'd love to hear that. And I will see you all in the next one.